Okay, we are now live.
Great.
So, okay, so now let me make you host and let's see if it continues to be streaming.
You're now the host of this meeting. Okay.
Yes, okay, it should be, it's still,
Great. Thanks,
still says
Maurice.
live. Don't forget you got to start recorder. It's not recording yet.
Okay, well, let me. I need to get the meeting agenda up screen.
WebEx recording is always better than the YouTube recording and when you're done.
Okay.
For
all right, so record. Hang on, let me maximize that. Close that.
which is up first?
The Magnet Innovation Center.
Oh, good.
Yep. Okay, here I go.
By the way, that's on BZA on Monday.
Yes.
Were you guys planning on asking for any landscaping on Olive Court or Olive Street, whatever that street is?
I have to go back to and look at my notes. I believe. Oh crap!
Because that's one of the major things they're written up for is that there's no landscaping on that street. No screening buffer.
Oh, dog. Wait a minute. All right. First of all, oh Maurice, I am so.
Well, you're sharing the screen.
Oh, okay. So the agenda is up.
Yeah.
Okay. The problem is the WebEx little screen minimized, and all I'm seeing on my.
Yeah, all your controls are up at the top on that orange bar.
Yep. Okay. I just don't.
Good morning, Lee Chilcote. How are you?
Good morning, Lee. I'm doing well. How are you?
I know this is not the place, but I just want to mention that we have the updated site plan that you received last night. Does show the landscaping, the bike rocks, the light poles, and everything. And BZA will be updated, and I'm going to reach out to Rick Riccardi today.
Oh, excellent.
And make sure, I've already told him that we were doing that, but I don't think he's aware that he has the plan. He got it yesterday showing the landscaping, but I want to make sure that there's no.
Rick, can you send that to myself? I'll put, because I run the Board of Zoning Appeals meetings for city planning.
Absolutely.
And I will be adding whatever changes are approved today to the presentation for Monday.
Maurice, I am having a problem maximizing my this WebEx screen, which is really
okay. So if you want to, well, it's just like every other time that you do these meetings, you always share your screen, right? All you need to do is maximize your. Are you talking about the video window?
Yeah. Well, the whole thing. It's like it was really small.
Yeah, whenever you share it, always all your controls go up to the top where you hover over that orange thing and it drops down, and that's where you turn on your participants and chat.
Turn on your participants and chat. Okay, this is anyway. All right, I am looking forward to people joining. I mean, I'm able to use like a lever to make the screen bigger. Okay, I guess I understand what you're saying. So when you're sharing a screen, everything else gets smaller, I guess. Okay.
Yeah, I hate it too, but that's the way it works.
Wow.
All right, so I'm gonna log off right now, and when I do, I'll make sure that the stream is still going. I mean, I could stay on till 9, but then I have that flats rezoning at 9. So
how am I able to tell that it's recording? Actually,
there should be a little icon up on the top next to where it says live. There's a little red thing that says live.
It does say this meeting is being streamed live to YouTube.
And then there should be right next to that, there should be something that says it's recording.
Well, okay, I just pressed record. I found something up on top.
Yeah, it does say
Now,
it's recorded.
Yep,
It
it
says it's
says,
being recorded.
yeah, it's
okay.
recording now. So you're good to go.
So now I have to, I'm gonna mute myself because this.
All right, I'm gonna log off just to make sure that it continues to stream, because if not, I'll have to come back on and figure something else out.
Thank you. Thanks, Maurice.
All right, bye-bye.
Oh, Amaya. Okay, so I'm not even sure. Excuse me. I know, this is so fun.
Morning, Jeremy.
How you doing, Lee? How you doing, everybody?
Pretty well.
Come on, sweetie.
Yeah. Got Bill Boron.
Good morning, all.
Morning, Bill.
So Lee, if you can, as the team joins, if you can just let me know who's in attendance, that would be very helpful for me.
Sure. Ethan Karp and Brandon Kornicki from Magnet will be present.
Okay.
Bill Boren is on.
Okay.
And obviously Mark Olson and Mark Benton and Jeremy Smith and Jeremy's on. I think Jeremy is presenting this morning. I'm not sure. I think he is.
Yes.
Okay.
Myself
So
and
basically,
Mark
the
Olson or Mark Benton will chime in if you wish.
okay. And so
And Bill Boren will handle the site. Bill Boren will handle the site questions.
is there anything additional? Are there any folks in addition to the people that are listed on the agenda?
My colleague David Donald will be joining. We're just counsel to the project.
What is his last name?
Donald, Dohnal. I believe he will be joining.
Okay.
And add Ryan Flanagan also from Langen.
Yep. Hello.
From where?
Langen, Langan.
They're the landscape designers.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wonderful. All right.
So
So
far, it's
we have
pretty overwhelming to us.
Yeah, David Donald is on. I don't see, the most important person is Ethan Karp, and I don't see him on.
I am on.
Okay,
I'm just trying to connect to video here.
very good.
So far, it's only 3.
Mark Olson's on, the second most important person.
I'm sure my wife would dispute that.
Just so you know, you're being recorded.
So we are waiting for a quorum. I see John Wagner, Chris Trotta, Jerry Rothenberg, the committee chair. So we'll give it a few more minutes.
Joyce Wang has joined from Midtown. Jim.
Pardon?
Joyce Wang has joined from Midtown.
Yes, I see her and I see Jeff Epstein as well.
Right, okay.
Matt Prowalt, CI.
What kind of response do you have, Kim, for people to be on the committee?
I got a very good response. I know Chad said that he would not be available, but that was the only person that responded that way. Jerry, did you see my email this morning?
Oh, yeah. You mean
Okay.
last night?
Well, you saw it last night?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Kept me up late reading.
It kept me up late putting it together. But yeah, it's interesting, and we will get through the process. So.
Kim, was there any final consensus around the KFC? I know there were quite a few emails going back and forth.
Pretty much everyone, for the most part, agreed that it was fine. I think that there was one comment that they were not able to see the color palette, and so the folks did send over a board, detailing the colors. I had not sent that out because the majority of the comments were, even though that there were some concerns, that it was fine. I think Jeff Strain mentioned adding a bike rack, and there's actually an existing bike rack there, so they said that they would just paint it and bring it up to speed. So they got the green light.
It's already painted.
The bike rack?
No, the building.
Yeah, I did notice that. I saw that, and actually, I think even before I sent the permit application back over to Building and Housing, I drove by one day and saw that they were putting the panel, that sign in the panel on the side of the drive-up window. So they probably just got the word and went with it. So I do not know what's happening with the other folks. What I will do is check my email. I'll try to check my email real quick.
Dick Pace is on now.
Okay, great.
Thank you. And Kim, this is Matt. Elise texted me and said that the Hessler Ford team is planning to log on at 8:20. So I don't know if that's who you're waiting on, but just wanted to let you know.
Who is?
The team from the Hessler Ford project.
Oh, 8:20?
Yeah.
That was optimistic. Ron's on.
Okay.
Good morning. You have 5.
Good morning. 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so in the interest of time, I know that other people will join, and I know that everyone has had an opportunity to look the information over. We're going to, let me stop sharing this. We're going to go ahead and get started with the Magnet Innovation Center project located at 1800 East 63rd Street. I know there's a pretty robust team of folks representing this project, and we really, I want to say on behalf of the city, we really appreciate this effort in reusing a school building of CMSD, and it's a great use for the community as well as the industry. And I'm sure that Midtown, I don't know, Jeff or Joyce, if you want to make a comment before they get started.
Yeah, it's Jeff. I'm happy to, just echoing how excited we are about this project, about the partnership with Magnet and with the community, about the role that it's going to play in the emerging innovation community that we're working on with the Cleveland Foundation and other partners, as well as the potential here for really thinking about outdoor space visibility and adaptive reuse of this building. So we couldn't be more thrilled.
Okay. And just for everyone's information, this meeting is being recorded. So if you, Matt, or I'm sorry, Mark, if you want to go ahead and introduce your team, that would be great. And you are able to share your screen so that we can view the presentation.
Okay. Kim, thanks so much. We are really excited to be here to present the Magnet Headquarters project. I think it's going to be transformative, and I'm happy to say, because this is in my neighborhood, that we're excited as well. So I'm going to have Ethan start by giving everybody just a little background about Magnet and who they are. And then I'm going to allow Jeremy Smith from my office to present the project. And we're certainly requesting any questions or comments during the presentation as they come up. So, Ethan?
Thanks. I'm very, very happy to be here with you all. Very excited to share these plans. This is something been in the works for a couple of years now, really trying to reimagine how our mission to help our small and medium manufacturers grow in Northeast Ohio, and how to find people and get them excited and interested in manufacturing can really live and breathe in a physical space. And
hey,
so,
Ethan, I'm sorry, excuse me, just a second. I tried to say it, but I was on mute. If you are not speaking, please mute yourself so that we can avoid background noise and distortion. Thank you.
Can you hear me all right?
You guys,
yes.
We can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, great. And so this place that really is going to be a center of all of the activities that we see the future of manufacturing requiring. So that's on the one hand, technology and seeing all the latest Industry 4.0 smart technologies that manufacturers and the 10,000 Northeast Ohio manufacturers that run half of our economy are dependent upon. They're going to be able to see that in this building. And then on the other hand, kids and adults and folks from CMSD are going to be able to come in and get a really well put together experience that shows them what is modern manufacturing, who are our manufacturers who are in our backyards, but we just don't know, we don't see them. That's going to be the other half of what goes on here, including, of course, a facility where CMSD will be teaching about advanced manufacturing. And then, bringing all of this together, we help small companies figure out how to grow. So there's going to be inside, there will be the ability for us to make new products, not production, but, design a prototype. So a company can actually see what their future products, what their future might hold. And lastly, there'll be lots of collaboration space for the community, but also for other partners so that we can really knit the fabric of Cleveland together in a really awesome way and all be leading to help our economy grow. That's the vision of this building, sort of very much a beacon of hope for the potential that manufacturing can give to the region, and also a very visible point of pride for manufacturers to be able to see from the outside and the community to see from the outside and remind ourselves how important manufacturing really is now and into the future. That's the hope, that's the vision for the building. So very excited to have our awesome team here today to share with you a lot of the plans. Happy to answer any questions as we go along.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ethan. And you know, as an architect with Bylowski, it's been amazing working with Ethan and his team. Obviously, there's a lot of energy and a lot of good things for both the community and the neighborhood that we're excited about. So if everyone can see my screen, I will start to move through the presentation and kind of give you guys an overview of our architecture that we're presenting. Is it good, Kim? Okay, great. Let's move on there. So start with the site location. You know, we're just east of, a couple blocks east of East 55th Street and north of Chester, on the border of the Huff and Midtown neighborhoods. And so you can see we've got a rich neighborhood both to the north and the east, Wilson Tower and the townhomes to the west. And a lot of stuff happening with Midtown and developments that that have been going on, both with Dave's Fresh Market, Rainbow Babies, you know, Dealer Tire, and the future Cleveland Foundation site. We zoom in a little bit, you can see the original school building that Kim had mentioned. There's, you know, a classroom bar, a gymnasium, and a one-story wing with our original entry just off of Chester and East 63rd. We have a parking lot off of Olive Court with the main entrance into the parking lot in the corner, the northeast corner. So we've got a lot of rich residential to the north and east, the townhomes in Wilson Tower to the west, and we're kind of bounded between East 59th, East 63rd, Olive Court, and Chester. In the northwest corner, there's a community building which we're also sensitive to. So to look at some existing photos, you can kind of get the character of the original school building. This is the entry in the southeast corner of the site off of Chester and East 63rd, which we will be removing and talking about a little bit later. The existing school with you know, just a lot of rich textures and boarded up windows, which we will be replacing and we'll talk about later, with the Wilson Tower in the distance. And you kind of get the idea of the townhomes in Wilson Tower and that main artery on Chester Avenue, which we're all so familiar with, along with the existing site parking that will be resurfaced and the community building to the northwest. So looking at our layout plan, some things I'd like to draw your attention to. First, you know, I mentioned the original school entry in the southeast corner, which we will be demolishing along with the sidewalk that in canopy. We'll be extending the existing sidewalk that runs along the south of the building to East 63rd for kind of a safe and direct connection between the streets. The existing entry to the parking lot will be maintained. We will be resurfacing the entire lot and restriping, adding a second access point off of East 59th, both in response to emergency and bus traffic for the CMSD component with a little drop off here. This is a separate entry for the CMSD component that has a direct connection to the existing walk, as well as a new ADA ramp. We're really focusing on, you know, kind of this heart as the entry and welcoming to the magnet space. We have a recessed entry into the existing skin. And one of the major things we've added is a combined loading dock to fit the needs of the new program, which we've been very sensitive to the neighborhood context, it, you know, off the parking lot for both convenience of, you know, truck and loading, but then also screening it from the adjacent neighborhood to the northeast and east of the site.
This is Bill. Jeremy, I also want to point out that you can see that we've pulled the parking lot off of the property line, the appropriate distance per code. So we're including a 6-foot landscape buffer where existing there was no landscaper at all, against all of Court or the other roadway. So it's a lot more inviting. It's going to be a brand new parking lot. So it's, as you can see from the existing photos, that this will be a nice addition to the community as well.
Absolutely, and Bill and Ryan have added a mix of shade trees and shrubs, which you can see in the 6-foot green buffer around the parking lot to screen it. And outside of that, the only planting I'll draw your attention to is that we will be reseeding and filling in the lawn in the areas which we demolish around the existing or the original canopy entry and vestibule area for the original school.
Yeah, I just want to point out to the board that we're not seeking any variances, that we're compliant with the present zoning codes and building codes in this area, and also the landscaping requirements and parking requirements.
And then to move on to the existing lighting plan, our current lighting plan, we've got a mixture of direct and indirect lighting to both highlight the building facade and make kind of a safe landscape around the building. And then we have 2 new light poles off of our parking lot in the west section, and we will also be replacing the fixtures on the existing light poles to ensure even distribution of the lot to make it a safe space. And then here are a sample of some of those fixtures all the fixtures that are tagged on that lighting plan. Start to move into exterior finishes. Really, the existing brick is kind of at the heart of the material palette. It's an extremely unique brick, one that we can't match, and we're not going to try to match, but it has a lot of color movement, so it can read as anything from a blonde to a gray, depending on the light and day, which makes it a really foundational element in some of our selections. The 2 design interventions we are doing to the building occur at both the main entry and the 1-story portion of the existing school, which we are going to lift to meet the needs of our manufacturing R&D program to match the adjacent classroom wing using insulated metal panel. We've selected a slate gray to have more of a neutral tone that faces the neighborhood without drawing too much attention to the program, while highlighting the new rich warm entry that we are going to use, an aluminum siding that has a warm rich wood finish that we're really excited about. And you can see that we've actually recessed that entry so that the vestibule is hidden behind the original brick pier of the school. At the corner of East 63rd and Chester, in the bottom corner, you can see that we have, and we'll get into the renderings a little bit later in more depth, but that it's largely the existing school with the rich existing brick to remain, and some insulated metal panel that highlights some branding. The existing brick that is removed will be salvaged and used elsewhere on the project as needed. So then to move into the exterior elevations, as I mentioned, the exterior brick is to remain, which largely defines the exterior of the building, with the exception of our 2 design interventions. All of the existing openings are going to be infilled with high-performing glass curtain wall system. The first intervention is kind of at the heart of the building, which is the aluminum siding that has the rich wood finish to draw a lot of warmth into the design palette. The second intervention is our raised roof over this one-story wing, which you can see the existing photo at the bottom of the page. And that is insulated metal panel with that slate gray that was on the previous slide. All of the traffic is centered off the parking lot, which you can see in the west elevation. And again, we're just lifting the roof to match the adjacent classroom bar, which will allow us to meet the needs of our new program. The main elevation off of Chester, our south elevation, again highlights the opening up of the existing brick wall, which again will be infilling with high-performing glass to celebrate the manufacturing R&D space beyond. We have infill at the original school entry, which we will be using insulated metal panel and curtain wall to kind of help reorient the interior views to adjacent manufacturing and education spaces within the building, which I will show you when we get to the floor plans. To start off on the first floor is a mix of public spaces, which are in blue, with our lobby, display, museum area, and event space, which can, and then, adjacent ancillary, both meeting and support spaces. The areas in green are the manufacturing R&D and education spaces with our new loading dock adjacent to that R&D space. Magnet has its entry directly off of the parking lot, and CMSD has its own independent isolated entry off of that west drop-off that we were showing earlier. So this is a CMSD STEM component that is all in gray, which has its code required second means of egress that comes out on the south facade of the building as part of the existing opening, expanding the existing opening. The second floor is largely a mixture of open office spaces and meeting spaces. This is really to make a unique work environment for the Magnet staff and associated teams. You can see that with the office spaces, we have really tried to orient them to these spaces in white, which are our double height spaces to kind of celebrate and look down on both the manufacturing display, and to kind of create a lot of energy within the building. Draw attention to this area that was above CMSD on the first floor, and this is a series of partnering spaces that'll provide spaces for small businesses to live within the building and have greater access to both the Magnet team and resources. To end on some of our new perspectives of the building. This is the future view from East 63rd and Chester Avenue. As you can see from the existing photo in the upper left, we're opening up that south wall of the manufacturing space of the gymnasium to kind of celebrate the manufacturing as you're driving by the building along Chester. And we've got a lot of, we're very lucky that the existing openings of the building lend easily to the infill and allowing the energy of the existing building to kind of filter out into the neighborhood and the streetscape. And just to end on our new entry to the Magnet space with our rich aluminum siding wood texture, really highlighting a lot of clear views through the entry into Magnet's museum display, lobby entry, and event space and manufacturing education spaces beyond to kind of create a lot of excitement and energy that really draws people into the building from the parking lot and streetscape. And that's it. If you guys have any questions, I really appreciate being able to present this to you guys.
Are you looking for sign approvals also on this?
Yes, we are.
Anybody have any comments, questions?
The view of the of the signage on the end of the building, the big open glass space, one of the work areas. That's it exactly. The signage on the far right, to me, feels a little overscaled. Whether it's permissible or not is something I don't know, but if it was just scaled down a little bit, it would kind of fit the area of the wall that it occupies a little better.
I'm a little concerned also about the signage on the tower.
Oh yeah.
In the rendering of that rendering, got cell towers on the chimney on the stack. Is that accurate? Is that what's going to be, or what's your thought on that as well as the sign?
Ethan, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, we are in many conversations with groups like Digital C to figure out the cell tower would be for amplifying signal to the local community and showing how reasonably priced broadband is attacking the digital equity divide. And that's what the purposes of those would be.
Okay. I think the concept of what you're doing is fantastic. What, just aside, what happens to your existing facility down on 25th? Does that get replaced by this? Is this in addition to it? And is your headquarters or your office going to be in this new location or the old one?
It'll be in this location, and it is a CSU-owned building that they will be taking full possession of, and so we'll be moving fully out of the building on 25th.
All right, and then architecturally, who was the original architect of the school building? You guys have any record of that? Should be CMSD drawings.
We do have the drawings. I don't know the person's name. I think it may have been a CMSD staff member. We can get you that name. If you bear with me a second, I might be able to get it wrong.
It's just a curiosity. The one feature of it, it's a very simple modernist building. The one really feature of it is the entry canopy, that wave entry canopy. And it's sort of a shame to lose that. Any chance that could be, but I totally get, you don't want to create a false idea of entry off of Chester, which it's not. So is there any chance of taking it down and moving it back to your new entry location back by the parking lot?
Yeah, I mean, we looked at repurposing that and recovering it, and it was just a pretty tenuous structure to try to relocate. It's a precast system that's pretty worn out. So we don't have any plans for reuse.
Okay, and then last architectural question is on the coping. Is that the coping, is that the same profile that exists where it projects out? Are you changing that, and what's the material and color of it?
The intention is to mainly maintain the existing coping and with the new coping in adjacent spaces to match that. So where we're infilling, like in this area, to match that same profile, which is unique. And then in areas where we are bringing up the insulated metal panel, that'll be a pre-finished product to match, metal product to match the insulated metal panel finish.
So in that case, where it's new, is it going to be tight to the vertical face of the wall, and everywhere else it'll be the projected profile?
Yes, because we are maintaining all of the existing roof. And really, our only new roof area is above that one-story wing that we're raising up with insulated metal panels. So the profiles around the existing building to remain will remain the same.
Okay. Yeah, that's all the questions.
Okay, Mr. Case, I found the architect for the original building it's stamped by a gentleman, Earl Shobe, S-H-O-B-E, and it's just the title block is just the Cleveland Board of Education, so it wasn't an individual firm.
Okay, thank you. A very nice project.
Any other questions or comments from members?
I think fantastic project, and I would move approval.
This is Chris Trotta. I had a question.
Okay, Chris.
Can we go to the site plan real quick? Yeah, that's good there. Can you describe for me again, you're adding off of East 59th Street, the new apron to come into the site. That road that goes straight, that's a two-way flow, I'm assuming. It's not just for bus to come in, it's for egress as well. Is that correct, Bill?
Yeah, that is correct. That's both for egress and ingress, also for safety forces to go through the site, a clear path around.
All right, you mentioned that this one sidewalk that you extended is for a bus drop off potentially. What's the frequency of that? And then if a bus is parked there with students that sort of blocks the traffic, did you guys ever consider a breakout, lane, or not a lane, but a turnout spot right there along the grass area so a bus could park and not be in the traffic way while traffic's going both directions? How do you see that working?
I mean, it's a good question. We looked at it. It's because of the timing, the buses are there so infrequently, a small portion of time in the morning and a small portion of time in the afternoon, that the disruption is minimal. And there are actually plans in the future for the portion of the site to the lower left that we'll be presenting at another date that we're in consideration of.
One more question now that you got the site plan up. You've got some exterior seating by the entrance, which is nice. Are you going to have any over by the entrance to the school? You've got a big paved area. Is there any chance of getting some seating there for people waiting for the bus or, for the kids coming out and taking a break?
Yeah, Dick, and I'll let Ethan expand upon this, but as I mentioned, there's going to be a second presentation that's going to be made to this group at a later date in regards to this area of the site. That's going to be a nice neighborhood improvement. I don't know, Ethan, if you want to speak any more about that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk about it. We are working with Great Lakes Science Center, CSU, CASE, a number of other partners to re-envision, and the community through Midtown, to re-envision what that space will look like and how it can be a functional playground and play space for the community, as well as the school, but also have themes of manufacturing and accessibility and, maybe engage people in what engineering and manufacturing is all about. And so it should be a pretty unique asset here that upgrades the existing play space in a major way.
This is Joanne Brown. I have a question. Could you just explain a little bit more about the loading area and the screening and the dockage there? And maybe in the elevations, I'm interested.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I had a hard time understanding that.
Sorry. Loading area. Loading dock. Yeah, I've got really, I apologize. It's not my video. The loading dock area.
You're asking? For additional description of the loading dock area, is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay. This is actually it's a split loading dock area that has a raised ramp and a lowered ramp that has some security fencing to its north, and then green space in front of it, about 30 feet, just off to the right of that entryway.
Yeah, and this ramp right here is essentially at grade, and then here is a masonry wall, which will screen the actual ramp itself, just above the finished surface.
You want to show the elevation of that, Jerry?
Sure. So here you can see that the ramp comes down, and just based on the grading of the parking lot, it really meets the resurfaced parking lot, and then there will be an at-grade, essentially at-grade landscaped lower dock just to the south, or just to the north, sorry, of our ramp. So there will be lawn, vegetation, security fence, and masonry in that wall to screen it from the neighborhood.
Yeah, the grading screens a lot of it as well.
Is that okay for you, Joanne?
Yes, I was just concerned about the screening wall.
Okay. All right, we have a motion on the table. And Dick, does that motion include the signage?
It was John, and yes.
Oh.
Yeah. That's great, because I wrote the one next to your name, so that means I really do know these voices. Great.
A question of clarification, if you wouldn't mind. They mentioned the playground will be open to the public. Is that true? That will be maintained by the present tenants, but will be open to the public, including the residents across the way?
That is correct. It's good. It will be a neighborhood park.
That's good to know. Good to know. And then I guess one other question, just in general. Obviously, there's some measure of the space that's committed to public services, that is the CMSD area. I'm not sure how the budget was allocated, but I was just interested if there's any public artwork that would also end up being a part of this project.
There is, but at the moment, it's not far enough along to be presented.
Understood. I guess I would add that as maybe another point of interest for approval, as well as the condition of how that exterior space will be finalized, including subjects such as seating that had come up in the conversation earlier.
Mm-hmm. Agree. All right, well, I need a second to the motion.
I'll second. Stick pace.
Okay. All right, any further comments or questions?
Jerry, I have one question or one request that I'm a little uneasy about the signage approval. It would have been great to have the signage shown on the elevations. It's only shown on the renderings. I think it would have been a little bit easier to understand what the overall signage scale and design would be if all that signage was included on the elevations.
Well, I guess we're gonna have to come back with details on that, aren't they, Kim?
Yes, that would be what we would need. We would need, details on the signage, dimensions, materiality, if there's any illumination, and just how it is affixed to the building. So that can be something separate. I mean, this can be kind of like, these are your placeholders. This is where you intend to put the signage, but then, more detailed illustrations of what actually will be there and how it will interface with the property.
Would you guys prefer that I amend the motion to not include the signage and have them come back, which is fine with me?
Yes, I would prefer that.
I think
So
I would
amended.
also.
Yes. Okay, and then on the point of the points that Ben made on public art seating, and there was one other thing, Ben. That's something that you all can explore, and do you think that that would be along the same timeline as the signage? Just to determine whether or not it's something that would be included, if it's maybe like a phase 2 in the future?
Potentially, I think I think we'll submit as much as we can submit for this next approval if signage is being removed. But the negotiations with the artists and things like that may take a bit longer.
Okay, and we do have a public art coordinator within our department that would be happy to work with you. Has a lot of knowledge and understanding of resources and artists, artistic community. So that might be something helpful to you through that process.
Great.
This is Jeff in Midtown. I'll just say our team has been working with the Magnet team as well on public art. Yeah.
Okay, I think we.
Tara has been
further questions. Do a roll call.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I have the conditions correct, that the project is not including the signage, that's something that would be looked at separately, as with the, any public art that would be eventually a part of this project. Were there any other points?
It's a small point, but
Okay.
just to reinforce my interest in the project, I do think this is a better and enhanced improvement of what's presently there. Just if that hasn't come across through the board as a whole, please know that that is, I think, a general consensus. But like, just given we can't really see the final playground, for example, those types of things, we just want to see that, before we can approve it. So yeah, that's all that caveat is to be there. So like that would include seating, placement, the exterior, that type of thing. So. Yeah.
Okay, and I do want to also mention, I don't know if this was brought up in this conversation, I was kind of multitasking about the vacation of, is it Curtis Court?
Correct.
Street vacation?
Correct.
Was that something that was brought up?
No.
So just if you want to go ahead and just describe that, or Joyce, the intention.
I actually think the architectural team could probably explain that. What the vacated Curtis Court will be.
Vacated Curtis Court will be eventually be recovered as greenscape for the site once city clean vacated.
Right, and just to be clear, that's on the southern portion of the site, so between Chester and the building. Okay. Rothenberg?
Yes.
Augustus?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Herring?
Yes.
I don't recall seeing Miss Madison, but I'm going to say her name anyway. Okay, Pace?
Yes.
Streen?
Yes.
Troto?
Yes.
Wagner?
Yes.
And Calhoun?
Yes.
Great. The project is approved with the conditions noted, and I will look forward to, I think, Monday. BZA.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Thank you,
Thank you
Kim.
for a wonderful
Anytime.
project that's going to enhance our community.
Thank you all.
Everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Great. So, yes.
I'm phoning in for whatever reason. I'm unable to log on the computer through WebEx.
Who is this?
It gets to the point I get to my preview and then everything freezes. So
okay, I didn't hear your name.
This is Pat Holland.
Pat. Okay.
So
okay.
I don't know exactly what to do. I've tried to log on numerous times and it's just not happening. I've got Wi-Fi.
Okay. Have you tried? I don't know if you're able to use a different browser, maybe. Sometimes that makes a difference. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I'm really not all that technologically savvy, but I know that.
Playing with this, but I'm on the call at least, so.
Okay. Okay. Well, you did get a chance to review these projects through the link, right?
Yes.
So did you have a vote or an opinion about the magnet project? Because I want to recognize your presence.
Yeah, I would vote to approve.
Great. Well, thank you for letting me know that you're here. And if there's anyone else that's calling in that is a voting member of this committee, could you please let me know now? Great. So before we move on to this, the next project, there are a couple of things that I want to say, and I actually need to, oh, no. I need to take like a 5-minute break, but I late last evening sent out an email. I don't know how many people got a chance to look at it, take a look at it, and it was a record of comments that were made during a public meeting that took place on February 10th. The comments were pretty broad. I think there were 90 something. And what I did, I took them and categorized them because I just felt like it was easier to kind of place things in a category to, and so what I did notice was the majority of the comments were really related to they were related to, let's see, let me get my notes here, myself together. I'm sorry. Related to parking, related to infrastructure, which includes road as well as utilities, related to UCI as an organization, the history in the community and the communications, related to the new building materials and the design, and then the developer's reputation, property management, and rents. Those were the majority of the comments. And so before we get started on reviewing this project, there are a couple of things I want to just mention and remind everyone. First, that this meeting is recorded. I know that there were people that wanted to attend and participate in this particular meeting, but I did send an email out to those folks to just make it known that this meeting is focused on the design, and there's a lot to this process that needs to be vetted. So with that, I'm going to just read a brief statement around the concerns of design and a few other things. So again, the feedback regarding the design of the building is asking that the new construction be more unique and better reflect the historic character of the district. Specific suggestions include reducing the height of the building to 3 stories, increasing setbacks from the existing buildings, and including more brick and applying a historic palette to the 1975 Ford building that matches the existing warm color scheme. While some residents are concerned that the project doesn't have enough parking to accommodate the density being proposed here, especially given the current parking constraints for the neighborhood, many community members are concerned with adding any of the parking proposed because it might result in the removal of existing screening from the uptown parking garage and tree loss. And that was another factor that was expressed pretty strongly, was just the green space, the landscaping, trees that have been removed, and how the uptown project has impacted the community as it is currently. As far as the site, as I mentioned, green infrastructure, perhaps incorporating green infrastructure to deal with the stormwater. There was one comment specifically related to what it's like when there's a heavy storm event now with the rain and the drainage and problems with just water that does not drain properly. Incorporate landscape screening for the proposed parking lot in addition to the fence that's being proposed. And orienting the parking so that cars are pulling toward the garage rather than toward the neighborhood. There's a concern that the existing access road from Ford is not wide enough to accommodate the amount of parking proposed. And the last point that I'll mention was to clarify where the trash will be stored on site and confirm that trash collection will be from Ford Road rather than Hessler Road and Hessler Court. With that, I do want to mention, I appreciate the passion that the community members have expressed in their activism and bringing these issues to light, and specifically letters that I've received from Ms. Cogger, Mr. I know I'm going to mess this up, I'm sorry, Theophrastus, and Aya Marino, Ms. Aya Marino. So we appreciate that, but at the same time, we also do appreciate when we are engaged throughout the process from the beginning, so that we're not brought in to, resolve an issue when discussions, conversations, concepts, and ideas have begun to gain momentum, and then we're far further down a road than we need to be, just for the convenience of getting a project done, which a lot of times is the way and the approach that developers go. And not to say that that's the case in this instance, but just, on my soapbox. So with that.
Can I just interject one thing? How are we supposed to handle it if in a theoretical situation where the building design is very nice, yet we are coming up against all of the issues with the developer, with the tenants in the area? I mean, there's two different things to think about here.
There is, and what I've explained is that this is just one step in the processes that would happen in order for this project to become a reality. And it's not there's nothing that says that it actually will. I mean, obviously there's there's the stakeholders that want this to happen, and then there are other folks that don't want to see this happen or want to see it differently, want to see it happen in a different way. And so from that perspective, we are here in charge to do, what it is that we're here to do. And that's to look at the design, how it fits within the community, the massing, the placement, the amenities, screening. I mean, we're able to look at all of these issues, circulation, from a pedestrian perspective, and that's what we're here to do. I do recognize that within the presentation that we received, there was not a detailed parcel map that showed parcels. So the way that the site is right now, I know that there are 2 parcels that front forward, and it appears as though those parcels need to be split in order to create the 1300 Hessler address. I don't know if that has been done. I mean, I'm assuming that that's what the thinking is that will happen, but I think that I would have known if the parcels had been submitted for a split and another consolidation. So I don't think that that has happened. And I'll let the development team talk about that. But before we move on to that, I want to also just state that the developers did come to us and as well as UCI, and we had a preliminary meeting on February 8th. And Carl Brunges from Landmarks is with us this morning. So I would ask him to make comments about, just how that conversation went and any recommendations that were made to the developer regarding the project. Carl?
Good morning, everybody. I think process-wise, we've worked with this developer on other projects as well. So they had an idea of what we were looking for appropriateness for the historic district. And I think they did a good job of getting to a good starting place and farther along than most would be. Some of our concerns, I think, was a parking, how would it be accessed? The paint scheme was an issue on the front building, or it was a concern. And I'm still working on finding some different color schemes for them. What we have to look at right now is the Secretary of the Interior Standards and how this fits in with that. And I'll just read to you what number 9 states, and that is new work should be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. So if we're looking at this from those perspectives, and that's what we have to do, in my opinion, have looked at the entirety, not just its immediate, but you have to look at the apartment buildings at the opposite end of the historic district as well. And it meets most, if not all, of those criteria, but it still needs to be tweaked a little bit. And I think that's where this committee and the Landmarks Commission will come in. And this is being reviewed as conceptual, so this is just the first step. So there is time for this to be redeveloped later, and I can say from experience with these developers that they have taken a lot of comments from the Landmarks Commission and the local committee, and they have incorporated most, if not everything, that has been suggested to them. So they are amenable in the past, and I don't see why they wouldn't be now. They take constructive criticism well. So please feel free to give them that constructive criticism. we realize this is a change in the neighborhood. And like any change, people can be resistant, whether that's at work, at home, anywhere. But we just have to be cognizant of that and work with the residents of the area as well. So thank you.
Thank you. And two more points that I want to make. There were additional comments that were made after the first community meeting on February 10th. And so those comments were made online to UCI. And I did also incorporate all of those comments in the spreadsheet table that kind of identified which topics or subjects there were issues with. And so I just want to recognize and thank the folks that provided input on that front. This is a valuable process, and one thing that I can say with this, with the city's processes, is that this is the democratic process of how we vet projects and how we make sure that they're the best and beneficial to the communities and neighborhoods in the city. So thank you for that. I also want to point out that Councilman Griffin is with us, and he has comments that he will be welcomed to make after the presentation. So with that, I would invite the development team to share your screen and share your presentation. Thank you. And just to remind everyone, if you're not speaking, please mute yourself. Thanks.
Sorry, I'm unmuted. Kim, I'm going to give a brief overview, unless the councilman who you just referenced would prefer to give an opening remark.
No, his comments will come at the end of the presentation.
Okay. I'm Russell Bruce. Good morning. Also on the team, out of feedback. Also on our team is Rick Marin. We are partners in this. And Dan and Eva Sir, project architects.
Let me just remind you, please, if you're not speaking, you have to mute yourself because we have the distortion. Thank you.
Much better, thank you. In May of last year, 2020, we were happy to receive a request for proposals that University Circle Inc. Put out, and we're eager to respond to it because together and separately, Rick and I have a long active history in University Circle and in this neck of the woods in particular. Moreover, the prospect of being able to preserve and renovate two historic houses and to create a, let's say, a little small but mighty new building and tie them together was very appealing to us. So we worked hard, offered up a proposal in July, and were lucky enough to be awarded the project by UCI in September or October, somewhere in that fall range. And since then, we've been working very diligently to come up with a project proposal that we think would meet as many of the hot buttons or be as accretive as possible to as many interests as possible. And that's what we're here to discuss today. Our goal and intention is to start construction this summer on all the structures, the two existing buildings and the new building. So with that, I'm going to stop in the interest of time and turn it over to Dan and Eva. Or Rick.
Did you want me to say a couple of words, Russell? I think I have the first couple of slides.
Oh, sorry, Debbie, you're backed out for a moment.
That's fine. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm Debbie Berry, Vice President of Community Development at University Circle Incorporated. Thank you for having us here today for this project. I just want to note that UCI in this particular case is in a really interesting position. We are the Community Development Corporation for this area, but we also happen to be the property owner. And as Russell noted, we got to a point where we made a determination through our board that we wanted to invest in these properties and preserve them long term. And UCI as an organization potentially was not the best steward to be able to do that going forward. So we went out with a actually request for interest to some developers to try to find a good partner that had a good track record of preserving historic homes, so we could make sure that these would stay long-term in the community, as they were really important. As part of that process, and another thing that UCI does is we are looking to fill in some of the existing parking lots in the district that front major streets. We've done a number of projects on Hazel Road, on Mayfield Road with Centric, One University Circle, that do exactly that. And so this combination of this team and this proposal, we felt fit exactly into goals that UCI has as an organization going forward. So again, the project is first and foremost about the historic preservation of these two homes, one of which does sit in the Landmarks District, which is why the entire project is going to be going to the Landmarks Committee as opposed to the Planning Commission after the design review process. But we as an organization developed some planning framework and design principles that you see here for those two existing buildings. I'm not going to read them all, you can read through them yourself, but we felt that, again, preserving the character of those buildings, and you'll see some modifications to the exteriors that we want you to comment on, was very important to the district, especially in this central location right near our main intersection. Go ahead to the next slide. We also created some design guidelines and framing principles for the new project moving forward. And as I mentioned, infilling vacant properties across the district, we think, is an important component to creating a more vibrant neighborhood and having more people there 24/7 that are invested in the circle and are improving safety, are helping to support our retail, are using transit. These are all important principles that we as an organization have had and continue to have and feel we are looking at with this particular development. Russell is a proven developer that has already rehabbed a home on Hessler Avenue. That is a huge improvement over what it was like before. And again, working with Rick, they've done other projects throughout the city that we feel are the right type of project to help enhance this part of the district. So with that, if you want to go to the next slide, our board came up with a statement of support for the project. And you can see here the various criteria that we felt we were fulfilling with this piece. And so we as an organization and our board are in support of this moving forward. And I just want to really quickly note, although it's already been said, we did come with the project design team and met with the staff for both Euclid Corridor and Design Review and Landmarks, as Kim said, to do a preliminary review and hearing of the project. There were some comments. UCI also has a separate architecture review board that has reviewed the project and had some comments. All of those things are going to be incorporated together, and changes will be made based upon the things that you are saying and the various things that we heard from the public meeting. We held a public meeting on February 10th, as Kim noted. We had over 100 people registered for that meeting, which, as you all know, because of COVID, had to be virtual. We had never seen anything like that before and had some challenges in how you manage that many people. We had over 62 actual attendees on the computer, and we determined that the best way to try to take the input and answer the questions and make changes to the project based upon the community input was to have everybody put questions in the Q&A. So we did not have a live meeting with that many people. We just weren't sure that we could manage the Q&A process of people jumping in and jumping off. And so we very diligently took every question. We answered a number of them in the meeting, and everyone that we were not able to answer has been submitted, along with additional follow-up that we've gotten on our website and through other things, has been submitted to this committee, to the councilman, and to the Landmarks Committee, so that everybody, as well as obviously the development team, is aware of all the comments that we heard from the public. So with that, I will turn it over to the design team to walk you through what we're looking at. A few of our staff here at UCI, if you have questions for us later, we're happy to answer them.
Okay, that was quite an introduction. So let's see, my name's Rick Lauren. Let me describe the project that we designed for. Can you all hear it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. There's three basic buildings. The first one is, which is 1981 Ford. And as everyone said, and I won't go over it, we try to use a lot of urban planning and understand the neighborhood issues and everything there. And I do know through the grapevine that other developers basically wanted to tear down these houses and do one large development on this site. We felt that the historic nature of the street needed those houses. So the first house is this 1981. We really like the exterior, the way it's done, the view of it. It's got nice stonework around the front door. It's well designed exterior wise, and it's what people first see as they come from Euclid down Ford. So it's the first house. However, the inside of that house had a very poor architectural layout. The kitchen was in the back with the dining room back there. The living room was in the front. There was one bathroom in the middle, the bedrooms scattered between both. So what we're doing in that house is redesigning the layout of each apartment to be modernistic, with like a kitchen and living room in the front that takes a large area. It's much more comfortable. 2 bathrooms in the middle and the bedrooms in the rear. And that's what's happening on that. So from the exterior, there will be no changes. The next slide, Dan. Okay, this is 1975 Ford. And on this, it's kind of the reverse. The interior layouts are okay, but they all need to be brought up, renovated inside. So we're going to do new kitchens and bathrooms and that to each unit, but the layout will stay the same. It's more like a cosmetic upgrade to current standards. However, the exterior, we felt, and I think we're open to, go to the slide with the exterior, Dan. Okay, here's a scheme that we came up with. It's still historic colors, but what we wanted to do was brighten it up. If you see in the upper right-hand corner, it's kind of dark and shabby kind of looking. And this color scheme incorporates the roof color. The white trim matches the 1981 house quite a bit. And also, when you see on the new project, it is consistent with all that. So we came up with this color scheme. It's not to say that we wouldn't, we'd be very open to suggestions and other color schemes. It's not written in stone, but we feel the house should be enhanced from an exterior viewpoint. Okay, then back to the open lot, Dan. Now back. Now back. Okay, this is the third site. It's on Hessler, and it's right behind 1975 there. And it's right now, it's basically an unused lot. And it's the only, and unfortunately, as you turn down Hessler, it's the first lot you see before you get into all the density of the rest of Hessler. And it's nothing more than a parking lot in reality. And we felt they really needed to be, have something fit in there.
Can I ask a question real quick right there, Rick?
Yeah.
Does that garage go with the house, 1975
Yes.
house?
Yes.
Okay, so, okay.
There's actually that garage, the double door that you see on the left with the car and dumpster in front of it, that's part of 1975. That would have to be removed. There's also another garage right next to it, which you can't see. You'll be able to tell on the site plan, which is actually on the property line, which is to the house to the east. So
Okay.
the two garages right next to each other almost.
So just for clarification, for the point that I had made at the beginning of the meeting, then the parcels would have to be split and then consolidated. Is that correct?
You're absolutely right, and we haven't done any of that because obviously we were going to get approval that the project's going forward. We have quite a bit of that type of work. We use Riverstone, and not only the lot differentiation, there's going to have to be excavating in the rear, which you'll see coming up, and they'll have to weigh in on that as well as the civil. So we have not the civil
then the
yet.
address is approximate, and it's not even exact, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, why don't you go to the site plan now, Dan? Okay, well, yeah. So those are the three buildings. And this kind of gives you an orientation of how it is. We're also proposing a parking area behind Hessler, which is a key element of the project. That area is basically unused. Nobody can get to it. And it's unusual to have an open space like that in such a dense neighborhood. So we want to use that for the parking for the project because it will take all of the stress off of Hessler Road as far as more density, more cars, because cars are a tremendous problem for that area. And to add density onto Hessler Road by doing this project would not work. So we created this parking area behind, which is actually not part of the Hessler Historic District at all, and would be accessed by the existing driveway that's adjacent to 1981.
I have a question, Rick.
Yes.
Can you tell us the amount of parking that's being provided compared to the number of new apartment units?
There's 23, and you're going to see in a minute, I'll go over kind of the uniqueness of the micro units. They're 462 square feet, so they tend to be single person at the most, two people. And there's 23 units, and there's 24 parking spaces.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Next, what I'd like to do, unless you prefer I wouldn't, these are different type apartments than you're used to. And it's kind of a creative design that I've come up with in my retirement, and it's something that I think is needed, not only in Cleveland, it's the first in Cleveland, but it's needed throughout the country, so to speak. And these are micro units.
So Rick, I would please ask you to move through this portion swiftly. We're really, I mean, as innovative as it is, we're really to look at the exterior and site and layout and all of that. Thank you.
Okay, when you first walk in the rear door, it's all open. There's a window on the end. There's total solid cabinets along each wall in a full-size bathroom. Kitchens are full-size. And that's what you walk in. So you come in, you sit on the couch, and you watch TV on the wall there. Okay, go to the next slide. I'll try to go fast, Dan. Then, let's say you're done watching TV and you decide to cook. The desk is on a remote that goes up and down and on wheels, and it's the same kind of material as a kitchen. So it raises up, in this case, from the desk and becomes a countertop for the cooking area. So you now have an island. When you're done cooking And you then can take that same island, lower it down remotely, and in one of the cabinets are chairs. You bring the chairs out and you can have, say, 6 people over for dinner. Next. Okay, then you throw them out and you're tired. If you notice, there was no bedroom. What happens is the wall that the TV is on rotates perpendicular, and you now have a full-size bedroom with a ton of closet space, a window and a couch. And on the other room is where the TV is, because the TV stays on the wall, and you can cook, you can work at your desk, you can lounge, etc. And then another next one that we added, because of the pandemic, we've upgraded to have an office space. So now you can have an office space where the bedroom is, and that's totally those filing cabinets go into the closets. The tabletop can lower down, and you can either leave it in an office or you can leave it as a bedroom. The couch, you switch the couch with the desk, so now you have a U-shaped office, very large, and the couch is you can pull out, and it's a sleeper couch. It's a sturdy one. So in the other room, you can actually watch TV and sleep in the other room if you didn't want to take your desk apart, or you can sleep in the bedroom. Either way. So that's kind of there's all these different rooms within that 460 square foot space. This is the first floor. There are 6 units per floor, except for the top, which has a rooftop deck. And there are 4 floors. Am I going fast enough? Okay, go ahead, Dan.
Thank you.
Okay, this is the top floor with the deck on it. And this is a picture of the elevation from the front. We were very conscious of keeping the street line. It has a very clear definition so that we're in line with all the front porches of the houses down the street. We also were very conscious of the brickwork of many of the buildings on the street, but also they're all brick buildings on the street. And we wanted to come up with a combination of the character of the street, but also a modern view of the street. So that's kind of the design. Each unit has, which I didn't point out on the floor plans, each unit facing Hessler has a deck in the front, so people can, quote, participate with Hessler and be oriented towards Hessler. And the brickwork is nice because the street itself is also brickwork. And these are different views. And this is a view as you're, looking down the street. This is standing on Ford. The building to the left, if you notice, has 2 structures of balconies, but then a blank in the middle. It's a large, and we wanted to pick up a little bit of that architecture, but also not be dominated by kind of have a newer type design. We also did not put up a 30-story building to be out of place. It actually fits. There's a view looking towards Ford. And you can see how the decks all along the street, they have decks on the front porches, which we mimicked. Okay, go to the next one, Dan. Okay, this gives an orientation about the size of the building. In the lower picture, you notice, once again, there's the balconies on the 2 ends, but it's all blank in the middle. And that's a 5-story building, which is almost 55 feet tall. Our building is 44.5 feet tall, and the house to the left is 37, and the house, our house to the right is 39. So it's a 5 feet, 7 feet taller, but we're lower than the building across the street. And we're really similar to the apartment buildings on the east end of Hessler. So there is it's a mixed street with existing apartment buildings, houses, and large apartment buildings. Okay. And this gives an idea of the heights cross-section of the street, 44 and a half versus the 55 feet across the street building. And this is some of the materials and everything, which you'll probably ask more. I can let the architects explain in more detail when you start getting into the definitions and materials, but it's brickwork. They're full brick, they're not fake brick, and there's stone involved and hardy board in different directions. So Kim, I tried to make the presentation slower, quicker.
And I appreciate it. I'll speak for myself. Is there anything else?
That's all I have to. I'm sure there's questions, so I can.
All right, so then we'll wait for the committee members to begin.
How close are you to the building on the east?
I'm sorry?
The building to the east of you, how close are you to that building?
There's a driveway. If you go down, up there, you can see the driveway to the garage on the house to the east. It's a house. And there's a driveway there to a garage in the back that's on the property line. And if you notice, all along the street, there's driveways between each house. And we're on the property line, but we're using the same concept as everything else that's on the street, house-wise. The apartment buildings on the other end, which don't have any of that.
You know, they just look a little closer on your building than the other ones.
Just some of them are. Across the street, it's close. Yeah, it's very close.
Do you know I'm sorry, do you know how wide the driveway is?
8 feet.
It's 8 feet.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Any questions from the committee? Comments?
I'd quickly check in to see, was Blaine's comments to be made before or after ours? So I'd check in. If Blaine had something to say also to add to the project, I'd like to hear it before.
It would be after.
Okay, that's fine.
So he has the opportunity to hear, the complete presentation as well as comments or concerns from committee members.
All right, that makes sense. And thank you for that. Also, by the way, I'm glad to hear about it. It'll be interesting to see what comes of that. But I guess the first point I thought I might make is that we've actually dealt in some measure with the contextualization in this neighborhood, especially as it relates to street frontage, eyes on the street, specifically expressed through the porches, very common archetype throughout the east side of Cleveland. And I'd like to applaud you guys for actually making balconies. We've seen a lot of proposals in the past that literally just outline the front of the building as if to trace the image of a balcony without a balcony. I don't know. There's a lot of things that are disappointing, and this is much more authentic in that regard. I would say in terms of the presentation that the comparisons to the building across the street, I realize this is probably a better expression to how you front the street than the building across the street. I would not say the building across the street is the best point of comparison. I don't think really anyone living on Hessler Street considers that building there and below to be the greatest asset of Hessler Street. So as that point, I would say maybe a better comparison would be to the buildings on the east end of Hessler. At which point you might actually, I think it would be useful for the committee to consider that might actually be make your point stronger. But like that being said, I suppose the only, I guess one of the questions I thought I might ask is like, what's the quality of, forgive me, you mentioned that there's going to be some kind of cement fiberboard, maybe
Yeah, let me
board that might be used.
let me do this, if I can interrupt for 1 second. Dan, do you have pictures of the building on the east end of the street? Dan, can you hear me?
Yep, I'm almost there. Just a second. I'm sharing that slide right now.
Okay.
Okay. Is this what you're looking for, Rick?
Yeah, that shows the apartment buildings. If you drive down the street, those are the apartment buildings at the other end of the street. Basically, you have the houses and then you have those buildings. There's about 5 buildings on that end of the street. So that gives you an idea of the architecture of those buildings. There's no balconies on those, no awnings. They're just straight facades. So just to give you a context, to your point.
Well, for what it's worth, actually, the point I was intending to make is that there are balconies there. If you look to the right, anyone who's ever attended this Hester Street Fair probably knows full well that those are very much activated, as they oftentimes produce a stage at that end cap there, and the
I'm
solid
sorry.
building.
Yeah, I was looking at the house. I'm sorry, I was looking at the houses on the left.
Yes.
There are balconies on the right. The apartment buildings on the left and in the rear do not have them. So, no, I understand. And I appreciate that. Yeah.
Good deal.
That's why we incorporate.
Yeah, about the materials, if you guys wouldn't mind speaking a little bit more into what kind of siding material you're using.
Dan and Eva, can you respond to that?
Yeah, give me a second to pull the material slide back up.
While he's doing that, I just want to remind everybody to please mute yourself if you're not speaking. I'm having to mute people because we are having distortion in this. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast live right now, so we want to make sure that folks are able to hear clearly. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead with the materials.
Yes, we are proposing to use brick, full-size brick, that matches the brick of the apartment building across the street, as well as the apartments down the street. As we go up the building, we're changing the materials. We are changing to hardy plank siding. We're using lap siding. And then we're incorporating a hardy plank vertical siding at the very top floor.
Okay, I just want to make sure I clarified. Please go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt. I thought that was your.
Yeah, the only thing I would add is the stonework for the capitals at the columns and at the balconies.
Thank you for that. Obviously, the more masonry towards the ground makes sense, where greater potential for contact. However, one thing I would say, specifically because the historic nature of this neighborhood, would be that as presently presented, that the hardy board is a brand name, typically not a through body color, which does not have the same longevity as a through body color fiber cement board. So I would consider, in many cases, I would say, unless you could specify or clarify that the Pacific selection you're using is versus any particular brand name is just a through body color fiber cement. That'd be a suggestion I'd be interested in hearing more about for the sake of the longevity of its use and appearance. Basically very similar as anyone would see, even for that matter, as I would applaud the addition to the existing buildings on the street that you've repainted and resurfaced because those siding boards have lost their color, that avoiding that condition in the future for the new building would be of interest. So thank you for that.
We are proposing to use hardy plank and have it finished at the factory. I think the warranty for this finish is over 30 years. So it is a very durable finish. I don't know exactly what the process is, whether it's a through color or somehow baked on in some kind of thermal process, but they do warranty that there will be no fading, no chipping, no peeling of any sort for many years to come.
Yeah, we have that project going up right now on Larchmere and using the same material. If I run across the office, I can get the samples, but they do have the coating on the exterior, Eva mentioned, with the long-term warranty. Rick and his team decided not to go with a painted product, the lower end product that you can get that you paint in the field. This is a factory finished product with the warranty. I believe Rick shares your concern about long-term maintenance.
Right.
And is willing to pay the upfront price for the little exterior, more expensive material to the site versus something that's unfinished and painted field.
Questions? Are you done?
Go ahead.
Okay. I guess I have a lot of concern about the mass of the building and its proximity to the building to the immediate east. Your eastern wall of the building is solid. So the house that's next door, 302, which has windows all along the western portion of that duplex, will be looking out at a brick wall. And have you done a lighting study in terms of the impact on the structure to the east?
Rick or Russell, I believe you guys had discussions with that owner.
We have not done a lighting study. The houses, you can't tell from this view, but the houses all along the street have that narrow driveway between each house. So a similar pattern or architectural scheme across the whole, across the neighborhood of the houses. And some of the apartment buildings don't even have any differentiation. But when you look out, say, of the west of that particular house, if you look out the west, you look at the next house to the east of it. I'm sorry. If you look out the west wall of the house, you look at the east wall of the house. They're both looking right at each other. It's a condition that's very common on the street. So we're not proposing to change anything. One of the comments that on the previous meetings was that they didn't want their tenants looking into our windows. So because of that, we took all the windows off that side of the building and put them on the west side of the building. So they can't look and see anybody, or anybody in our building cannot look in and see anything in there. Also, in one of the previous meetings, they suggested that we change the elevation of that side, which we did. We put panels to make it look like windows, even though they're not windows, to make it more interesting. And we recessed the hallway back into the building, and we did put a window in there, which we could remove if you so wished, but we thought it looked better with the windows in there in order to make that side more interesting from the driveway. And very similar to other architecture on the street. As far as the height is concerned, as far as the height is concerned, it's from one of the previous slides. We're only about 7 feet taller than that house. And we're also, I think we're 5 feet taller than our house, the 1975. So we didn't try to create a project that was huge that looked out of character with the street. We tried to keep a very similar height with the houses along the street and consistent with even the apartment buildings at the end of the street. So we were very conscious of that character.
Dan, I have a question. What's the side yard setback on the east side?
On the 0. We're right on the property line.
Rick, you mentioned excavation. Can you elaborate on what actually is going to occur? Because there is quite a grade difference running south to north.
Okay, that's very good, and that leads into something that I really wanted to mention. It hasn't been brought up yet. Let's look at this from two perspectives. The reason we feel the rear parking lot is critical to the project is, one, if you're constructing that building, how can you build that building without closing down Hessler for long periods of time and also destroying that street? And that was a big consideration. So our proposal is there will be no construction vehicles and no parking of any vehicles on Hessler. Hessler stays the way it is now and should be. And as a side, if the street can be fixed up, that will even make it more wonderful. But all of the parking for construction workers, cement trucks, lumber vehicles, everything delivered, they'll use that rear parking lot as a laydown area. And all construction vehicles of workers will use that parking lot. That parking lot cannot be seen from any place. So if you're walking down Hessler, you never see that parking lot. If you're walking down Ford, you never see that parking lot. It's very unusual to be able to create a project like this and have parking. We did it on 4th Street, to have parking not visible from anywhere, but very functional. So the idea is that area is very critical to construction for, say, the year and a half. And even after construction, it allows no more stress on the parking in the area. And,
sorry.
And there could be a possibility, and that maybe somehow that lot could also be used by some of the existing residents but there have to be a walkthrough, but that can be talked about later. As far as the question about excavating, which you brought up, Pat, there is a height difference there. So when you drive down, it's actually kind of ironic because there was somebody living in, I think it was the first house, that always drove a Miata down the driveway, down that embankment and into the rear lot, or the second house, I mean. And they were using that as a drive-through, and you see people walking through there all the time. The better solution is we want to excavate, I'm guessing about 2 feet off of the area behind the micro building and 1981 and lower that down so that the grade to the parking is minimal. Does that make sense? And we also want to put storm sewers in that area to collect all the water and reroute the water from that area. And it'll be fenced off so that those houses to the rear which right now are not very romantic. They don't use those rear lots the way they should, but that's not for this discussion. And put
Can I ask a question?
Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
So the driveway at 1981 Ford and the driveway going into the Uptown project, what separates the two, and how wide is the driveway for 1981 Ford?
There's a guardrail there right now separating the two. There's an encroachment that I'm gonna have to negotiate with Uptown to widen the existing driveway to make it a little wider. But it's only one car will be able to drive through there. Now, another thing that's critical to this project, I'm gonna.
So is that 8 feet then?
Yeah, yes.
Thank you.
And then what I'm going to negotiate, this is another point to Pat's point about the explanation. That Uptown parking garage has a staircase. Right after the staircase, there's an area that we could, if I can get Uptown to agree to it, we can grade that area. And then all of the material, whether it be cement trucks, they have garbage trucks all the time going through there because the garbage is actually kept inside the building in Uptown, and the garbage trucks go through there. And then those are big trucks because they lift up the dumpsters. They have those lifts. So in any case, we could have cement trucks, lumber trucks, etc., pull onto that Uptown garage, Uptown lot, and then use forklifts to take the material to the project site. And that way, we're not using Hessler in any way and trying to borrow some space for, say, 6 months from the Uptown garage. Does that make sense? Maybe not, I don't know.
Yeah. I'm also curious, this project is bordered on 2 sides with parking structures. Have you attempted, and one of them, you own, and UCI has another one across the street. Is this parking area really that necessary? Maybe for a laydown area, but for long-term parking?
Oh, it's critical. If we're building 23 units, you need to have parking for it that is committed for it. As far as the Uptown project, just let me say on record, I retired from MRN 2 years ago in order to do these micro projects that I've designed by myself. My kids do own that project. And all of the MRN's assets, I have no involvement with it anymore. And all of the operations and everything are with them. So even I have to negotiate probably with Joe Del Rey or whatever to be able to do this. But yes, it's critical to have that parking for those units. I would never build a building and hope that you always supply me with parking for the area, when in reality, tenants, whether they're Hessler or Case or whatever, can really use that garage. And if we're gobbling up spaces, that does not solve parking problems, that adds to it.
On the subject of parking, honestly, I consider it potentially to be a necessary asset from a community's perspective, and potentially, but that's where my question leads. Is obviously, again, the historic nature of this neighborhood in this specific corridor is not just the building stock, but is specifically associated with the culture associated with an event that's held there annually, the Hessler Street Fair. And this lot has been pretty integral and significantly an anchor on that event, making it possible. Have you had any negotiations or conversations with the community as to how the parking lot perhaps could supplement that prior use of the existing site?
I have been desirous of meeting with the residents. I told them that in every other development that I've done, and Landmarks can speak to this. There's been a constant communication back and forth with other projects that I've done, and it's been very healthy and very good. And we've modified the projects based on that conversation. So I would be more than happy to talk with the community. That being said, Russell and I discussed the idea. Well, let's talk about the street fair because it's important. If you take that area, if there's on this screen, there's an arrow to a loading area. And if you look at the green space to the left, that's the tree lawn of the 1975. Why don't we work out a way that that can be the main ticket or entrance area, whatever you want to call it, for the Hessler Street Fair. And every year that gets gobbled up and used that way. And no one uses it. I mean, it would be used strictly for those people. The other thing that can happen is the parking area that we're talking about, that gray area. We would make sure that for the fair, that area is turned to Hessler, that they can use either for, you know, they can have exhibits back there, and if they can make an access to that area, that people could walk to it. You could probably have tents back there and things they could do for the street fair to expand it to that area, and it can be used functionally. So I would be more than happy, and Russell as well, to donate usage of that area for the street fair and the other area in order that the fair stays the fair. So we're very committed to that.
I'm glad to hear that. Obviously, that's a significant portion of what we do here is to make sure that the new proposals are of higher and better use. We realize that the event is only something that happens in a short period of time for the entire year, but no less, it's interesting to know if there's any kind of written agreements or initiated conversations on that front.
I've been trying to talk to the residents. We had a meeting that I offered to set up. Actually, it was supposed to be at 6 o'clock Tuesday, and they canceled. So I'm not sure, and I reached out several times. I've talked with Laura on the street 3 different times for probably over an hour, but no one else has communicated with me, and I reached out to Pat. So I've been trying, but no one has responded.
Do you actually have access, or is that land actually yours where the parking lot is going? And how do you propose handling those electric cars that are stacked like that?
Okay, I didn't hear the second part, but the first part, that lot is owned by Uptown, and I would lease it from them.
Okay, and how do you propose to handle those electric cars that it really doesn't function if they're stacked like that?
How does the electric get done? Oh, okay. That's a concept that I have with the micros. We haven't done it yet, but the idea of those cars are that we buy, in that case, I think there's 6 or 7 cars. We buy those cars, and if you want me to go through it as I can, the idea is that actually the city told me that it costs $9,600 to own a car a year. So if we could buy those cars, place them in the same car, so you place them right back behind each other. A tenant comes out, takes the car, drives, uses it, and when they're done, they come in and they put it back in line. The second tenant comes out, they take the same car. If you have 5 tenants come out, they take 5 cars, but they all pull them back to the same place. They're all electric, and they have a charging station there to charge them. So it's theoretically a community type of project, but it's very useful for sites that do not have, that you can't afford to have traditional parking. And it's also for a transient type of population that doesn't necessarily want to own cars. And then what you do is you charge them an additional amount on the rent, but nowhere near the $9,600 a year so that they can basically share a car. That's the concept of it.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have some questions or comments?
Yeah, this is Dick Pace. I want to start out and say I have a very high respect for both development partners for the project. I think that the unit design is creative, and so I applaud that, and the shared usage card is a good idea. But the letter that Pat and Ted wrote, I thought was excellent, and I actually agree with all the points that are in that letter. Let me just hit a few questions that I have architecturally. On the two existing buildings, on the 1975 Ford, is that house, you showed a color scheme, are you keeping all the original wood shingle and wood shake on the, or clapboard and shingle on the house, or are you replacing it? So that's one question. Second is on the colors, you've got an opportunity with different materials maybe to add more color to it, but that's just a thought. So back to the question is on materials. Are you just cleaning up and repainting, or what's going to happen on that?
Yeah, cleaning up, repainting, and if there's any repair, obviously we do repair, but it's the same house, not changing the material on it. And the color schemes, we will be open to any suggestions.
Okay, you know, the shingle and the gable may, you know, those could be called out as a different color than the clapboard on the you know, first two stories. Second question is on 1981. That house or apartment building years ago, probably 30 years ago, the column capitals fell apart. I think they were some type of exterior plaster or something, and now they've been replaced. They were replaced with fiberglass, those green column caps at the top. They're pretty pretty hokey. They weren't the right scale. The column covers were, you know, I don't think that's. I think they're. If the restoration of those columns, those are a major feature. Both the four two-story columns and then those one-story columns supporting the deck. That's the architectural character of that building. Are you going to restore that at all, or just paint it or maintain it as is? You're on mute, I think. Great.
Okay, great. Initially, I just thought that was the character and the original aspect of the house. If there's a different architecture from historic pictures, we would be more than happy to entertain looking at and try to come up with some, if you guys basically feel that that's out of character. I think you're Dick, you're muted.
Yeah, I would not make it a requirement. It's just a suggestion. Okay, and then getting to the new apartment building, I do feel, even though the building across the street's taller and that the house gables adjacent to it on either side are similar in height, massing is, I think, too much for that site. I would recommend it being maybe 1 story shorter. But that's my view, my opinion. The thing that does concern me, the two things that really concern me a lot on the design. One is the hardy board, or whatever that board is, just is not of the same quality and character as the street. I'm all for new looking like new, not having to replicate the old, but you've got beautiful quality buildings on the street and architecture, and I just don't think that's standing up to that. Having the brick base is fine, changing materials is fine. I love the front porches, but the hardy board, I think, is going to come off looking cheap. That's my opinion. The third thing is the side walls and back wall really are. I know you're up against lot lines and all, but to be blank, have predominantly blank walls is a real shame. And I know traditionally these apartment buildings had a wonderful front facade, street facade, and were much more plain on the side walls and rear. But this, I think if you, those walls just seem dead to me. And I think that they would be I think that I would hope that there's something more architecturally you could do so that they don't feel the side and the rear wall facing the parking lot. I would hope that you could dress those up in some way that they feel like the same building as the front. And I love the front porches. So then the last question I have is and I do that one picture you had of the green space, it looked like an extension of the backyards of those houses. And to put the parking there, you know, that used to be a very heavily wooded hedge that led over to what we called Hessler Beach. And, you know, there was great separation there for the back of those houses. When that was taken down, at least you had green space. I think that the concern now is you no longer have green space. Those houses are really fronting onto a surface parking lot. And you show a fence or you call out a fence. I don't know what the fence is going to look like, but you have, I think, 4 trees that were planted back there or something, very spindly trees. I would really strongly recommend a much heavier landscaping approach to that separation to make that parking work. So those are my main concerns.
I'd like to actually second that, and I'm glad that Richard points out specifically the nature of how the existing houses are being treated at the rear. And moreover, actually, I'm glad that he pointed out the nature of how the spaces on the side of the building exist, especially as it relates to if we were going to use that parking lot as a supplement for how the street fair operates, the corridor from the street to that space behind and the landscaping associated with it would be of vital importance to make that a valuable asset.
This is Russell. I just want to make one comment on the east elevation that Dick raised, and before that, Pat Holland as well. 2 comments. Number one, the UCI ARB recommended we make some changes to that elevation, which we've since done with the panel and a wash of lighting. So that was a good comment we felt, and it's incorporated in this drawing. So we took their comment to heart. Dan can show you in a second. There it is. And the other, I'll just say it is, I did email with the owner of that house to the east. There's 2 owners, one of them who originally was lamenting or complaining that windows in that elevation, should we have them, could cause peepage, people peeping from our building to his and vice versa. So the elimination of those windows we thought would comfort that particular resident at least.
Well, I still think one of the problems was the fact that that building is too close to the site, to the property line. It should be moved over a few feet. I mean, I can understand where some of the houses down the way have just a very narrow opening, but that's also not a very massive building next to each other. I think this one you have to give a little more breathing room like you have on the west side of the building.
Can I comment on that?
Sure.
Dan, can you go to the site plan? Yeah, that's good. One of the motivations for having it on the property line is the area to the west of the micros is a very important area. One for ADA for the 1975 building, you can see the stairs there. The other is to have good access back to the road that people feel comfortable, they can walk through it. And if you move the building to the west, you're crimping that area. The other thing, the second point to that is if you move it off the property line, that area that I just talked about in that loading area, along with the front of 1975, they can be used for the street fair. And if you move the building over say 2 feet. It's not giving any more room to the driveway people. They still have the same amount of room that they're using, but it's gonna quicken the functionality of the common walkway and to the street fair having the ability to use that area. It encompasses on that. The street fair won't use 2 feet along the driveway that other can use. So for those two reasons was the motivation for keeping it close to, putting it on the property line. The other thing is the garage to the neighbor, he's actually over the property line, his back corner of his garage, but that's okay. The garage is actually on the property line itself anyways that they drive into. So just pointing that. So those were 2 points for, I understand if it's, in a area, I can understand that more, but for those 2 reasons, we chose to keep it on the property line.
What is that protrusion on the back of the 1975 building?
That's a staircase.
No, I'm talking about the building. It's in the building itself. You have like a separate little area.
It's a one-story.
Blocked off.
Yeah, isn't that the bathroom or something, Eva?
Yes.
Right, you're on.
Yes, this is a one-story, kind of like a room. It's more of a closet rather than a bathroom on the existing 1975 building. You can see in photos.
Yeah, there it is. It's that little hut.
That would give you,
Point.
if that wasn't there, it gives you the clearance that you could use.
Right. At this point, I would like to ask Councilman Griffin to provide any comments that he has. I know that he has another commitment, so I'd like to at least get that in since he's heard most of comments, I assume. Councilman Griffin, you have to unmute yourself. I know he had to leave, but I still see him there, so give me just a second.
Kim, I'm back. I had to step out to take care of some business, but I am back.
Great. So we were asking for any comments that you had regarding the project.
Sure. First of all, I think everybody pretty much said what I was going to say. I think Debbie Berry really put it best. This is the first step. I really want to make sure that the residents have an opportunity to engage with the developers. Rick and Russell have generously made themselves available because of a couple of scheduling conflicts and some other issues. I believe Laura Suraki, who's the head of the Tenants Association, had to reschedule. But I really want the residents to weigh in on this. A couple of things that I did not hear that they had concerns with is that the former project of Uptown really caused a lot of challenges for them. They said that there are settlement issues in other properties in the area. That is a very big concern for them. The other thing, I know lighting was mentioned, and the massiveness and the scale of the building was one of the issues that they really had a lot of concerns with. And there were also a lot of challenges with a tree plan, which I know that the city has a mandate now that you have to put a tree plan in place. But there were a lot of promises made with the former Uptown project that there would be a lot of barriers and a lot of foliage. And all those trees were eliminated and never were replaced. And that's something that really needs to be looked at in this process. I know that you guys' job is to really look at the context of this. I just think that no project is successful without really having resident input and really making sure that the residents have their voice heard. Rick and Russell had the same process in another area that I represent, which is the Larchmere community. And actually, through a significant engagement process that included, I believe, about one community meeting and several subsequent engagements with residents, they made some tweaks to the project and they made it work. So we're working with developers that are willing to meet with the community and have a conversation about the concerns. I too am always going to be concerned about the historical context of Hessler. Hessler is one of our jewels in the rough where we really need to make sure that we preserve the historical context of it. I know that the residents also, as well as I, have some concerns about the street and the brick facade, which sometimes has sinkholes and other things. That's a separate issue. But I really want to try to put this in context. There's kind of two parallel tracks that we are really dealing with right now. One is the urgency of this building because this is a proposal that UCI is working with the developers. The developers are proposing the building. And how that fits within the historical context and the status of Hessler. But then there's also one that the residents really just feel that they're disconnected with the planning as well as the input that they need to make sure that their long-term investment and commitment to the neighborhood is respected and cherished. So as a council person, I have to listen to the residents. I am very firm about not jumping ahead of the process, but all that I am mandating, telling everybody that if anybody wants to have my support, they need to make sure they have a conversation with the residents. However, I will caution everybody. I am pro-development. I am a person who does believe that some of these missing teeth need to we need to build on them. I do also believe in density. I know that that's something that a lot of people debate if that's a good strategy, but I've adopted the city's strategy, and city planning strategy is to really try to create more density. So nobody in this process is probably going to get everything that they want. Nobody in this process is probably going to I don't want anybody to be under the illusion that I'm a czar and I'm going to go with a thumbs up or thumbs down, but I am going to weigh in on the concerns on behalf of the community, and I am going to be fair with the developers. That's how we've been able to get a great project on Larchmere that I think all of us are proud of right now, and that's what I believe that we can probably do on Hessler. But I really urge this committee to really make sure that we don't impact the of Hessler and really make sure that we address some of those things that I think Ms. Scott and others have mentioned around parking, around the facade, around massing, around how this affects with light, and then also what I said about trees and some of the other things in the area. So I said all of that to say that we're in the beginning process. I hope that everybody has genuine and sincere engagement with each other. I know that Chris is not with us, but between Debbie and Elise, I really would hope that the residents also have an opportunity to talk with you, because some of this, I think, stems from them believing that they want to be a part of the overall planning of University Circle. And as a stakeholder, I think that that'd be great to have them involved with that. So that being said, thank you guys for reviewing this. I'm going to withhold whether I support or not support this until all of those engagements take place. And once again, I do want to make sure that I do let everybody know that Rick and Russell have been more than generous and said that they will make themselves available in person, not via Zoom, to the residents. And I'm encouraging the residents, and I know Pat is on here representing a lot of the residents. He was at a subsequent meeting that I had with the residents, that that none of this, I would hope that none of this really moves down the pike until the residents really get an opportunity to engage UCI and the developer, and really have a stake in how the future of Hessler is formed. So I just really want to make sure that I underscore that, because if that doesn't happen, then I'll be a less than happy camper. But I do want to encourage everybody to have those engagements, and at the right time, I'll weigh in. Thank you, and have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, Councilman. I had one point, and it kind of piggybacks off of one comment the councilman made, and also reading the comments from the residents and going through them last evening, and that has to do with the landscape that was supposed to be a part of the Uptown Phase 2 project. In that was something that this body reviewed back in 2012, which some of you were not a part of. However, in 2012, on December 20th, this committee reviewed the Uptown Phase 2 project, and this was for final approval of the building, and it was approved with conditions. And the condition was that the approval was for the building only, with a conceptual review of the landscape. And that was not approved because there was to be a final plan submitted. And to my knowledge and from my records, I don't have anything that reflects that. So what I would ask is that, Mr. Marin, if you could go to your folks to see whether or not that condition was filled, and just bring me, and I will forward to the committee what status of that was, because this greening, landscape material, trees, the development, the condition of what has happened. I mean, and I don't know how far people have gotten, the residents have gotten, in terms of doing any analysis or having an actual engineered study done on the degradation of the property because of Uptown. I mean, I know that we can say these things, but until there's something that substantiates that, then it's just, and I apologize because I know this sounds probably callous, but it's more like you're saying these things. So with that, I would ask that of Rick, if that's something that you can look into, I would appreciate it. And I think that would also just calm some concerns.
Okay, I'll get back to you.
All right. Since this is a conceptual approval, correct, Kim? I'm wondering if I can entertain a motion for an approval. We've lost several of our members. We're down to 7 right now. But I would like to entertain a motion for an approval. And there's been a lot of comments made that I think the developers have to take into consideration. And they'll be back, obviously, several times after this. But will somebody make a motion for an approval?
Don't all jump at once.
Dick, anybody?
Since you called on me, Jerry, my feeling is there's a lot of work to do. I'm not against the project per se, but I think there are a lot of concerns. So my first reaction would be to vote against approval, as opposed to voting for approval with a 5-page list of concerns.
What about tabling?
I think that's a valid way of going, because I'd like, I think there are a lot of it's very serious concerns, and I think if so, I would be happy to move for tabling the project and letting the developers meet with the residents and get feedback and come back with their revisions.
Right, plus the feedback that we've already given them today.
I will second the motion to table.
And who was the second?
Pat.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any further comments or questions?
Yes, I have one. Maybe I'll ask to Kim for starters. Since the councilman, I think, is off the call, I can't tell. Can you be explicit about the expectation for neighborhood meeting, who, when, towards what end, how you see that going, so it's not left open-ended? What is it you are requesting precisely of both parties?
So
Kim, I'm on the call. Was that directed to me or to Kim? I don't know.
Oh,
he was directing it to me because he thought you were not here.
Oh, okay.
But
I apologize.
Sorry, Councilman, I didn't know you were off. Should I repeat the question?
Yeah, because I had to step away. I apologize.
Oh, no problem. I was just inquiring what your expectation and or recommendation is for interactions eye to eye with community members and the developers.
Exactly what you guys had scheduled the other day. And I have made it clear with Laura and the committee that if they cancel and they do not go forward with this meeting with you guys, then they will lose out on their opportunity for input. I'm trying to be fair and call balls and strikes right down the line. I don't need this to be an open-ended process. They really want to meet directly with you, and they really want to talk with UCI. I think that's fair to at least have a conversation. And then once they have that conversation, then I'll be in a lot better position to call balls and strikes to be supportive. So as soon as you guys can get that done, if they do not, Russell, you and Rick know how to contact me. And if they cancel or they're avoiding and they don't meet with you, then that's a different story and we'll move forward. But just what you guys were going to do with you and Rick the other day to meet with Laura and their leadership team, because they do have architects and other folks that are on their leadership team. I would just appreciate that. And once that takes place, then I will be supportive of moving this forward. But I do want to make this clear to Mr. Pace's point. I think that Mr. Pace, just for clarity, I think Mr. Pace is holding this and asking for this because of some of the improvements that the committee wanted to make, or is it just because of the meeting? I think those are two separate questions.
Yeah, I believe in both. I do think that the developers need to meet with the residents, and I think Councilman, your point's correct. If the residents don't reciprocate, then you have to move. The developers have the right to move on. But I would want them to reach out one more time. But secondly, I think there are a lot of questions and concerns from this committee about architectural review, and I think those need to be addressed and will be addressed by the architects and the developers. So we'd like to see those things addressed and come back to us so we can review it. So.
And I'm just going to jump in really quickly. I know there's been a lot of chatter on the YouTube meeting that folks are commenting. UCI is committed to being part of that community meeting as well and listening to the community as we did the first time. So we'll work with Russell and Rick so that we can together, get the comments back and do it in a safe and effective way so that we're listening. So I just wanted to make sure that, we're on board with this process.
And during that process, it's very imperative that city planning and or landmark staff is also involved in those conversations. I can't express it more. There are some folks that have meetings, they never think to include the city, but this is a city process, so we need to be apprised of what is taking place, especially after now this process has been initiated. So just please keep us abreast.
We will. I think we just need to all be careful and understanding that we are still in a time of COVID and there are safety precautions. And I heard the councilman say that the residents would like an in-person meeting, which I think we can try to facilitate, but we just all have to be very careful and aware of health issues that are out there. So I just want to say
I
that.
totally agree with you. What they were offering is only 5 of their, a strict hard 5 of their leadership team. That's why I said their leadership team, not a full community street meeting. It will be a strict hard 5. And that's
Okay.
what I was able to do. So it won't be.
I just
and
want to make
all of
sure
it should
they're
be social
representative too of the feelings across the street. So if that's fair, then that's fine. And certainly, Kim, we will absolutely would like the city to be there and hear firsthand the conversations.
Let me.
And my apologies, everybody. I have to go. Thank you.
Let me jump in. I'm kind of wearing 2 hats here. I'm a member of the Design Review Committee, and I tried to keep my comments today focused on just that part of it. But I'm also serving as chair of the Neighborhood Association, and so I will take the initiative to schedule with the developers and a handful of representative residents, and we will let Kim, we'll advise you and also Landmarks, Carl, as to when that meeting will take place.
What is the timeline? How often does this committee meet?
This committee
Every other
meets
week.
the first and third Thursday of each month.
Okay.
Always preceding the Planning Commission meeting, which is the first and third Fridays. So if the Planning Commission meeting is on the first, then the Design Review Committee would be scheduled for the last day of the previous month, if that makes sense.
Basically, okay. 2 times a month. Okay.
The weather. The weather next week is supposed to be much nicer, so maybe we can meet at the site. I'll be.
Yeah. And I would just request, Pat, that you make meetings as soon as and as frequently as possible.
I understand.
As a side note, I'd just like to make sure I thank both Kim and Pat for the effort you put into this project prior to prepare us for this conversation. I sincerely appreciate that letter, as well as the contextualization that you provided up front, Kim, with the residents' input.
Okay.
Got a motion on the floor.
So we had a motion for tabling. Do you have a second for that?
Yeah,
I
Pat
second.
Hollins seconded it. So I'll
Okay.
read the roll. Rothenberg,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Herring,
Yes.
Holland.
Yes.
Oh, I think in your role you need to abstain. That's what I think.
Then I abstain.
Thank you. Pace,
Yes.
Stream,
Yes.
Schroeder had to leave. Wagner, are you still there? I think he's gone
No,
too.
he's gone.
Calhoun,
Yes.
thank you. Okay, so the project is tabled, and I will look to hear from your team to determine when your next steps are and when you expect that you'll be ready to come back to this body. We look forward to it.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Kim, can I have 2 minutes? Just 2 minutes.
Sure.
Is all I'm asking for.
Sure. And Ben, I need to talk to you too. But what I'll do, if you can, you just email. Well, I guess I should have your phone number, right? I do have your phone number. I'm going to give you a call.
Yeah. Hey, that sounds great.
All right.
That sounds great. All right.
Everyone. Okay. Hey, Ron.
I'm going to take 2 minutes here.
That's fine.
This is the
Take
first
as much
time
time
I've
as you
had.
need.
This is in the year that I've been with this group. This is the first time I've heard a council person actually try to mitigate. I don't know if mitigate is the right word, but
mediate, like
Yeah, that's a better word. Mediate between the community and the developer. So that was very, very encouraging. But
I think it happens, but I think there are certain personalities. I mean, and because we don't live, we're not necessarily privy to all over the city. We don't necessarily see it, but I think that there are council members and representation that do that.
Yeah. Well, the point I was trying to make is what it actually has done has accentuating the real problem in this broken process. Uh, this developer is trying to be accommodating. The council person is trying to be accommodating, yet there's been some barriers, and the community is trying to be involved. And it's a simple fix to me. The process is broken. If they had somewhere in the process where there had to be 3 meetings scheduled, whether the people cancel it or whether the developer cancel it, just 3 meetings inside of this process with the community, that fixes this. I mean, that really gives the community opportunity. It gives them
Oh,
3
hold
chances.
on. I'm sorry. We're still being recorded. Okay, let me turn this
Oh,
off.
I'm sorry too.
Well, now. Ooh, okay, hold on.
Yeah.
And I kept getting these text messages. It's like, okay, yes, stop
But
streaming.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and that's my whole point. It just seems like this can be fixed real easy.
You're probably